there was always a slight edge of worry about Bon because he was a hard drinker. He lived hard. And the more on the road, as anybody who knows who goes on the road, it's a hard life. And the one way of seeking relief from that hard road is booze and drugs. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. In those early days of making success and touring non-stop, life gets tough and you get bored. And he was a hard drinker and a hard liver. I was doing a documentary about Australian music overseas in 1978, and I met with Bon in Atlanta, Georgia, and AC/DC were supporting Cheap Trick. After the show, he and I went back to his hotel room, and it was just he and I, and we were talking about stuff, and I was saying, "How does it feel?" And he was dressed to the nines. He had a long coat on, jacket, leopard skin jacket with all the trimmings, and he looked the absolute epitome of a pop star, of a rock and roll star. We went back to his hotel room, and we rang a couple of people that we both knew who lived in America and stuff, in the early hours of the morning, and woke them up, and then we started talking. We got drunk, and veritas in vino, as they say, and he started expressing to me that he thought I got the best deal because I was settled down, I wasn't on the road anymore. And he said, I really envy that, I wish I was, because he said, to be honest, I'm really getting sick of this. He said, we're on the road non-stop and I need a break, I want a break. And he said, I can afford to take a break, I've got a lot of cash coming my way. And he said, I really am getting sick of this. I'm sick of being on the road. All I want to do is go out into the country somewhere. I'd like to settle down and live an ordinary life like anyone else and just play guitar. And, they may have been the early hour meanderings of a drunken man who was pissed off with having been on the road for years and years. On the other hand, somewhere there, I believe there was a deep core of unhappiness.
At the year's end, the live album If You Want Blood was released, highlighting the quality of the band's playing on stage. In January 1979, they returned to the studios in Sydney, but changes to their tried and tested production formula became necessary. This album had to break them and needed something new.
Highway to Hell was the breakthrough album. It pushed everything forward. And for Highway to Hell to break through, AC/DC didn't just have to write the best songs of their careers. They had to arrange them in the very best possible way, possibly better than they'd ever thought about arranging songs before. And they needed a production which would bring out every nuance, every nook, every cranny of every song. Vanda and Young weren't the people to do it. Great producers in their own right. They'd taken AC/DC a long, long way. But I think everybody within the camp knew this was going to be the one to really make an impact and take up not one notch, but 2 or 3 notches. However, to do that, needed a different type of production approach.
The band left Vanda and Young in Sydney and first travelled to Miami to work with Jimi Hendrix's producer Eddie Kramer. When this also failed to work, they again moved continent and took a chance with a young British producer, Robert Mutt Lang.
They must have known how important this was because they pored over it for so long to get it right. The fact that Mutt Lang was out there to make his reputation too, that's it. The carrot wasn't far away. The carrot was really close, and they could probably all see that. And Mutt Lang coming in with a challenge to him, like everybody had a challenge, and that does work.
The resultant album, Highway to Hell, quickly emerged as one of the cornerstones of rock music, and it firmly put AC/DC on the world map.
The whole period that leads up to the pinnacle of achievement for Bon with AC/DC, which is Highway to Hell, it's just a continuously natural progression. They were getting better as musicians, they were getting better as songwriters, they were getting more comfortable with working in the studio, so comfortable that they felt the time was right to not use Vanda and Young and to go with Mutt Lang. they must have been absolutely flying as a band at that point because, you know, they were so confident. You can hear that confidence all the way through, all the songs on Highway to Hell. I mean, it's there. You can start to hear that confidence coming through on Power Age. You know, the live album pretty much blows you away, If You Want Blood. But then you get to Highway to Hell and it's just like, you know, here's a band, they've arrived, it's their time.
Highway to Hell confirmed what many had often believed, that the band were born to play on the world stage.
AC/DC became one of the biggest bands in the world in the summer of 1979. That was it. Out came Highway to Hell. They were doing major tours. They were everywhere. And they'd made almost effortlessly, almost unseen, they suddenly went from being a band who were going to be huge to a band who were huge. They were suddenly one of the biggest names in the world of rock. Everyone was noticing them.
Yet tragedy was to change everything. After huge tours in America, the UK and Europe, the band spent the Christmas of 1979 in Australia. In February, Bon returned to London to write lyrics for a new album. On the 19th, after a heavy drinking session, Scott passed out in a friend's car. He would never wake up. With a verdict of death by misadventure passed by the coroner, the world would soon come to mourn a unique icon in the annals of rock history.
We were devastated here in Australia by his death. It was incredible. It was just because you just thought Bon Scott, well, you know, Bon Scott is bulletproof, you know. Nothing's going to kill Bon. And yet, at the same time, you also know he's a live fast, die young kind of guy too. You just thought he was always, you just maybe took it for granted. And then when he was gone, no, look, the outpouring of feeling for him was just huge. And everybody knew that we had lost a huge Australian character beyond rock and roll, but just a great Australian larrikin, as we like to call them. And definitely, you know, he's gone. It's easy then for everybody to go, oh, what a great rock and roll hero he was, you know. And that definitely happened, and record sales spiked accordingly, you know.
Well, I was devastated when I heard that Bon died. Again, his wife Irene phoned me and told me late one night, and I was completely devastated. You know, he was a guy who deserved success, deserved to be happy in life. I don't think he died happy. And I also think that he was on the cusp of success and very frustrated. He was on the cusp when he died. It wasn't till after Bon died that AC/DC kicked in. All their hard work for the previous 5 years kicked in 12 months, 6 months even, after Bon Scott died, when they recorded the Back in Black album, which was a tribute to Bon. That became and remains their biggest album of all time. Bon wasn't there to share it. He went out on the cusp. And I'm sure that was frustrating for him before the event, that he hadn't quite got there, that he could feel that they were on the cusp, but it's just so sad that he went out before they made it.
I cried. I just couldn't believe, and I mean, if I continue along the same veins, the tears all start now at age 56. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Bon died. And I still can't believe that he's not with us anymore, but his spirit's with us. As long as AC/DC rocks and the music rocks, I'll remember Bon.
AC/DC did keep on rocking and recruited Brian Johnson as Bon's replacement. They went on to become one of the biggest bands in music history and continue to sell out arenas today. But many feel that something changed, that a part of their spirit was lost when Bon Scott passed away.
When Bon died, it was the sense of fun. Went out of the band, I think. And I think it's probably as simple as that. You know, Brian's a lovely bloke, but he's just one of the guys. Bon wasn't. Bon was like, He was one of the guys, but he was unique. He would be the leader of the gang. People, you know, you can criticise him for drinking and taking drugs and enjoying himself too much if you want, but that's what that's what people liked about him, because you know he didn't bullshit anyone. What you saw was what you got. You can hear him grinning when he's singing, even on record, some of this stuff, you know, and that it's, you know, few singers can invoke that kind of character on a record. You know, technically he wasn't the greatest singer. Who gives a damn? He had a blinding voice as far as I was concerned. So, you know, and that went out the band. You know, it pains me to say it because I love the band so much, and you know, I didn't really want to see them change that much. But hindsight is a wonderful thing, and you know, you look back and some of the songs on the likes of "Fly on the Wall" and "Blow Up Your Video," they're just, you know, well, half of them wouldn't even make any of the Bond records, and the rest of them, you know, even when they seem to try and capture the essence of what they had with Bond, it falls